Hello and welcome to Scarlet Serpent readings. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Timeless Picker card reading, where we will be discovering your spirit animal. And by that I mean like the spirit animal that you embody. Hopefully you don't skip the intro, because I just want to explain briefly how I'm going to approach this reading, because it's a little different. What I'm going to do is we're going to see how you embody the four elements within yourself. So, for example, how you think. We're going to find like a spirit animal for the way you think, associated with air, a spirit animal for water, how you navigate and control your emotions, your emotional intelligence, a spirit animal for how you ground yourself to the earth, representing your physicality, and then a spirit animal for kind of connected to your passions, how you move through the earth, how you the fire that's within you. I don't know why I wanted to do it that way, but and then centering the four elements, we have, I guess it would depend on how you interpret the reading. So it could be like a current energy or situation that you're in. I just have one card for that too. Or just like a recurring theme, or a way that you kind of like your environment, you can say. So I'm hoping that made sense, and if not, hopefully it will during the reading. So I actually don't have anything for pile selection. I usually do. I kind of wanted to keep these cards surprise, as they represent like your situation or who you are at a spirit level. But yeah, you can just choose pile 1, pile 2, or pile 3. Just via the numbers, what you feel intuitively drawn to, or if you do it by the number on the timestamps. But if you need time to meditate on that, go ahead and do so now. And of course the timestamps are going to be in the description box. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you at your reading. Hi, pile 1. So the cards centering your reading, well, actually, first of all, if you skip the intro, you might want to go back, just because I explain kind of the layout of the reading. And before I start, I want to thank you for your presence, and especially for those of you who are subscribed. I really appreciate it, and the comments and the likes, it makes a huge difference. And if you see me like in public, I'll scroll and I'll just start smiling like all day at the comments, so I really appreciate it. So the card centering your reading is the Six of Swords. This could be kind of your safe space, how you embody yourself, or just where you're at right now, or your environment, a place of calm, levitating. You could be naturally drawn to the air element, but let's actually start with the air element. So what spirit animal would represent your internal air element? What spirit animal represents how you think, how you articulate yourself? We have, is it a moose? I don't know why this is funny to me. A moose for your air element. You could find, so this could be a few things. One is that you don't feel heard. Like you feel like you deserve more attention with your perspective on the world, and it's just not getting through to people, and that's kind of a frustration that may not be seen or understood by others. It's just kind of hard for you to get through to people. I'm just going to grab a few cards to explain this before we move on to the other elements. But we have the moose. You feel, the thing is with this reading, it's not really it's not meant to represent like spirit animal guides that are around you. This is more of who you are. So you could think slowly and deliberate, like it's like your thoughts are grounded in a way. And then we have the 5 of Cups. Yeah, so for me, this just feels like, and then the Ace of Pentacles. It feels like you have a lot of ideas that just nobody really pays attention to or hears or notices. And this could, I think, with the 10 of Wands and the moose being there, just it leaves you feeling very defeated. Like you're exerting a lot of energy into trying to be heard and to express your ideas, because you do, again, you have a lot of them, but and I could see that being particularly frustrating because of this card that centers the reading, where you know you're channeling, you know you're getting wisdom from spirit and from your guides, but there's just nobody, and that's causing great frustration, I'd say. I wasn't going to do this, but let's find a solution real quick. Actually, how could being the moose kind of assist you in getting your ideas heard? Anticipation. Look at that. I was just talking about having an audience. The chairs are all empty. You're waiting for the right people to get there. This is more of being patient, knowing that it's the right audience is coming. So if you find yourself being frustrated, it's just like these people aren't really capable of absorbing the channeled wisdom that you have. And so it just feels like don't exert as much energy trying to convince people who don't really want to be convinced of anything, or just aren't capable of seeing the world through your lens. It just seems like wasted effort, and the moose can just kind of relax at this point. So let's move on and go to... I feel like there's just a lot that I want to say, but I want to get to the other elements. So let's do water now. What spirit animal, what is your spirit animal in regards to your emotional intelligence, in regards to water? Judgment with the butterfly. Here you feel light, and you might have undergone a transformation of understanding your emotions and what it means to really connect to them. It's, in other words, it's like you could see them as a guide. So when you feel triggered or you feel really happy, you see that as a guide to move you towards really blossoming. So it's I think you feel comfortable with the water element. You feel comfortable with understanding your emotions and understanding the emotions of other people. And I think people are drawn to you because of it's like a emotional security, you know, or like a therapist would. People are drawn to the beauty that you have. It's like you're a clear stream of water, and that's because there's like maintenance that comes along with that. So it's interesting. We have the 5 of Wands, and then earlier we had the 5 of Cups. So I think, as I'd mentioned, there might have been a change in your understanding of what role your emotions play in your day-to-day life, and how the emotions of other people impact your reality, and the other way around. But like I said, you might also attract people who want to dirty your water, if that makes sense. Like, they find comfort in you, but they might not really understand why, and that could cause conflict when there's people who truly value your calmness and who could see your beauty for what it is. Let's get one more card. 2 of Cups. yeah, like it's not all bad, you know. You do attract some of the right people, and I think, as opposed to the moose. By the way, I didn't even say it, but the spirit animal is the butterfly for your water element. And what I'm seeing here is you just attract both negative and positive people, and I think this kind of ties to the moose card, the air element, where you're wondering where the audience is, and that's kind of how you draw them in, is through feeling your way towards the right people, and the right people feeling their way towards you. But I think there needs to be like a natural filter or barrier, and I think that's part of what you're doing, is knowing instinctually how, you know, who's right and who's wrong, and who's ready to receive that wisdom that you have. Yeah, I'm not gonna draw an oracle for that one, because I think it's really clear. I think you have a lot of clarity. That's just the main, if there is a conflict, is just like who's just constantly trying to take a shower in your, you know, emotional comfort, just to dirty, and they just keep coming back, and they just keep rolling in the mud and going into the pond that is you, I guess, and it causes you to do extra work also. But that would be like, and then there's some animals that appreciate like a spring. They appreciate the clarity, and they respect it. I think that's the big difference. That's how you'd be able to tell the 5 of Wands energy versus the 2 of Cups. So let's get into Earth element. What is your Earth spirit animal? We have the 9 of Swords with the snake. I think part of this is that you don't feel safe on this planet with this particular image. You don't feel safe, and you feel like you have to be a bunch of different things to different people to look like you belong here. And I think part of that is because of it might be strange to you that people are listening to fools that obviously don't know what they're talking about, but they attract a lot of attention. And you, who is someone who's very pure, who has a lot of I don't want to say like pure, but has really pure intentions and channels a lot from spirit, and it has a strong awareness of self. And it's almost like you're rejected because you don't look a certain way, especially the serpent, which could obviously, you know, be misinterpreted, can be scary to some, just through lack of understanding. But it is a very strong life force energy. It is a very strong creative energy, and the way snakes move is really weird. There's something about movement that is otherworldly, and the way you navigate through the world, and I think that might be why you might feel misunderstood. But let's get some cards to elaborate, just a couple. Why is the snake you have the 10 of Cups and the Ace of Wands? It's very interesting. It's like, because you attract people with your beauty at an emotional level and a deep level, it's like you have a lot of creative potential, and I think that's where you'll find a sense of home and security, is almost meeting people who have that same type of water. It's like where salt water and fresh water wouldn't mix. So there could be, it would be difficult to make something with both of those different types of waters. So part of your journey is finding people who can create with you, and that's where home will start to kind of manifest itself in reality, in this reality, in the 3D. And maybe that's why that physically, or maybe even physically, that people, you might be misunderstood, and that's because it's a natural filter. And I think you have a physical sense of that too, let's get another card. Because I think that's what's bringing all of this on the Emperor. I think you're meant to lead, but you haven't really found the group to lead. And I think not only lead like people in a direct way, like in the work environment, but I think at a global level, like a very strong influencer here. Where finally you're seen and respected. It's interesting that you would have like the snake energy, or you could say dragon. I just want to get an oracle card for what the guidance would be. Nature. So you might not feel like you fit with society, with people, with humanity, but you definitely fit with the planet. And I think part of your wisdom and part of your journey on this planet has to do with reconnecting with nature and having humanity reconnect with nature and work with the natural elements to make a new kind of world. I think that's why the Six of Swords is so powerful here, is that you almost force yourself to be isolated from the people that are naturally drawn to you. And just like you draw people to you, you also draw like animals, but spirits of different places to you. And so you just have a lot to share. You have a lot to offer humanity, even though it might seem uncomfortable at first, but you are an authority, and you have again a lot to share. This could be in a creative way with art, because you're meant to have an audience. I just keep seeing the birds in the background, the chairs we're missing with the air element too. So there's a strong connection, and there's something that you want to build, like a community you want to build. So let's get the last element, and that's fire. What spirit animal represents your fire? Hey, and then we have a baby fox. This is cute. So I guess that makes sense. And we have Page of Wands. So out of all the elements, I think this one is aligned, and you might not have had the inspiration to take action, just because I think most of the frustration would come from and I don't even think this is a blockage in your throat chakra or anything like that. This is more of just you don't know who to share your story with. But I think putting yourself out there, like just going to new places would help you a lot. Going to new venues, like physically, literally, having fun, and putting yourself in like how do I say, different markets, like a fair, a market, or a mall, or something like that. Create a sign. I know this is it's kind of like playing the guitar in a corner, but in a different corner. So just going to different places and I think eventually you'll get noticed by the right people. It's like, depending on the type of music you play. So for example, where I live, Florida is not a good place for let's say metal. Like if you wanted to play that type of music, or like indie music, this really isn't a place for that. Most people here like whatever, I don't even know, just but if you went to someplace like Washington, like Seattle, that would be more open to different types of music. That's just what I'm saying with that. And I think there's this fire that you're connecting to. So there's the fox. Not only that, but like I said, with the snake energy, which is also your spirit animal, the snake, you're able to mold and shapeshift and navigate through difficult terrain. So in other words, you can come across as someone who's more difficult to connect with. But that's just because again, you might be attracting the wrong people, and so it's kind of like a natural force field. Or if it was like, if there was a bubble around you of light, like a sphere of light, I think what you can do is change that. So for example, you can create a mist and just people wouldn't notice you, or you can create a rainbow effect and people would get a little disoriented around you, and it would just repel those who are not really at your vibration, at your frequency. So let's just get some cards. So we have the Three of Cups. Yeah. And the World. Wow. So I think on your journey right now, you're on a quest to find like-minded people, and you're being pushed by to embrace your inner fox and to travel, because when you find the right place, you'll naturally feel like the leader, like you belong here. This is your home. Now you could share your message. Now you could share your creativity. Now you can share yourself, in a way that you haven't before, and in a way that you've been really wanting to. And I think that's where you'll find a sense of belonging. I guess your journey will come full circle where, okay, now I'm home. I could be surrounded by people and it doesn't feel like I'm detached from myself. I'm not being authentic. So okay, I hope you enjoyed this reading. Please let me know. Leave a comment. I'm very curious. Thank you for your support, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Take care. Hi, Pile 2. If you chose... you didn't choose... anyway, if you chose Pile 2, the card centering your reading is the Nine of Swords. So that could be where you feel you are at right now, or even your central energy. If this is like your home base, I'm not gonna say that it's necessarily negative. It could also represent, because we have Mars here, so it could be that you fight with your intellect, and because it's Jupiter, it's kind of like you can influence the minds of other people. So this could be an innate telepathic ability that you have. So I wouldn't worry too much if this feels negative, in any way. Although it could also, of course, represent your current situation. So that's really centralizing the reading. If you missed the intro, I highly recommend going back, because this might be a bit all over the place, but I'm going to jump right in. So we're going to find out what is your spirit animal for the air element. How do you think? What spirit animal represents your intellect? How you communicate? And we have the goat, the mountain goat. You're very secure in the way you think, and I think that's probably why you have the Nine of Swords. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything negative, although it can, again, depending on your situation right now. But in a general level, you're very comfortable within your mind. You don't get swept away by the ideas of other people as well or as much, as often as others might. And you have a very clear perspective on the world. So could be strong Capricorn placements, but yeah, very, very stable mind, stable communication, and clear. So let's just get a few more cards to see, I guess, clarify why is the goat your air animal spirit. King of Pentacles. Now I'm going to show you this card, and then the Five of Swords. There's something about the fives that have been all over this reading, but first of all, I want to show you these two cards, the King of Pentacles and the Goat. They're both standing almost the exact same position in two completely different decks. Look at that. You really have like a not only a unique perspective, but a very high perspective of humanity in the world in general. And I think you see a lot of petty conflicts, and you choose not to be a part of it. It's almost like you see the Nine of Swords in other people, and in a global scale, where you're just like, I don't understand why people create conflict for no reason. And that's what's coming in with the Five of Swords. It's almost like battle for battle's sake. And what I think your wisdom is in seeing how it creates destruction and chaos. It's destroying, people at an individual level with the way they think, the way they, the self-talk, or destroy the planet, or kind of like in a work environment where people create drama just because they're bored, and it ruins people's lives or get people fired, and you could just see everything so clearly, and you're very firm in what you see, you'll tell it as it is, and you don't care about how other people perceive you, because you're just really, really confident, and you just have a very clear mind. And I think you speak with authority, and if people don't, they will listen. I don't really think that's a problem. That's kind of a very sharp contrast between this and pile one, is that you have no problem. It's like your throat chakra is just it's like a superpower. I don't know how many of you've played Elder Scrolls. Well, anyway, there's a power where you just shout and things just fly. It's kind of fun. It's like a force push from Star Wars, but I'm sidetracking. We have to move on. So let's get what spirit animal represents your water element. What is your water spirit animal? And then we have fox. And we have two fox spirits. So I think you know how to navigate the emotions very well. I think you're very diplomatic, and you reflect the emotions that other people have back to themselves. So if they have a bad mood, and this is an interesting combo that I'm seeing with the goat and fox, you'll make sure that they know that it's them that's causing this. So if someone comes to you in a bad mood, or with kind of like a snappy attitude, it's not even, I don't think in your case, it's not even deliberate. You're just gonna like give it right back, and when people like kind of confused, you'd be like, oh, this is your attitude, so I hope you like it. If you don't, you need to change it. That's on you. This is like a powerhouse of a group, and I'm saying that because of the Jupiter placement, actually, mostly. the Jupiter and Mars with the Nine of Swords is like, and it's not just chaos for the sake of chaos, although it can be, but it's more like you will fight things that don't align with the highest good, your highest good, or more importantly, the highest good of like an environment. And I'm just getting that from the perspective you have. You see conflict, you won't shy away from it, but you won't create it for no good reason. And that's just what I'm getting with the fox. But you can also blend in very well with different people who have different understandings of their emotions. But let's just get some clarification for your fox spirit. So the fox spirit, again, would be your connection to the water element. I think you might act on the way you feel without hesitation. You have temperance. So that is balanced energy. And then we have the Seven of Cups. So in this case, it's knowing when the battle is worth it, if there is a battle at all. It's also, I think this group would be alchemists, specifically with the emotional intelligence of others. So if people come to you with, they're really sad, you can reflect that, but you can also give them back something that's more, beneficial to their growth and to the people around them. I'm going to clarify this. Seven of Cups. Why is that Seven of Cups there? King of Wands. I think this is a wolf. It kind of looks like a fox, though. So, sometimes you might not know what is the best option for you at a heart level. So sometimes it might feel like it's not that you're disconnected from your heart center, it's just that you love so many things and you might not have the ability to focus on any one thing. And I think because you could feel into things so deeply that, I don't know, sometimes you might, especially with the swords that are coming through, you might even imagine a reality where you take this job, for example, and you're just living it out, and then you go to this job and you're living it out, but you never actually make a decision. That could be just something that happens to you, or you attract those people into your life. I'm gonna get an oracle card for this water spirit animal that we have battle. For some of you, this could have to do with a relationship or a friendship or family or someone that you feel like you know where you want to go, what you want to do. You feel like this King of Wands, but you're not alone, and you have to kind of take into account the well-being of other people in your life. So this could be children as well. It's like your heart might want to move, but you're raising a family, and it's just not right for the family at this time. But it could cause some conflict. It's just saying for me that you could adapt to anything because it's the fox, and you could make it work, and you don't have to completely compromise your heart's desires for your partner or for your child or for anything really. Although there might be compromise, you're just not completely neglecting your heart, and don't feel like that's the only option. So let's see now, what is your earth spirit animal? Queen of Swords. Yeah, you feel very comfortable in the sword element, in the air element. that's how you ground yourself, actually. Like, you feel maybe reading is a pastime, or just learning, that's how you ground in this reality, is yeah. But not just reading. You'd have to have someone to tell about what you're reading. You'll like pull someone aside and, hey, I read this, I want you to know it now. Or I read a research paper and I'm going to tell you about it, because there's this thing about, like, you like receiving information and passing it along. And that's the spirit owl. That is your air spirit animal, the owl. And again, write it home. So that would be a very strong connection with the owl. And I wouldn't be surprised if this group has a strong connection with birds in general. But and I'd mentioned this in a couple other readings, there's this group that uses telepathy with birds, or there's something where there's communication, a very literal communication with birds. So let's get a couple cards. Yeah, there's been a lot of 5s in this reading. The 5 here with the battle. We have the 5 of swords earlier. Now we have the 5 of pentacles. Here, in this case, it feels like for all the wisdom and knowledge you have, you don't feel like you've been compensated for, or you don't think that you're getting your full value, even though it's your strength. We have the strength card here. And then Page of Cups. And I think the Page of Cups would be saying, you're very passionate about it. You're very... but it doesn't always have to be very serious. Like, if it's like a teacher who's, when you're really passionate, you get serious, or when you're very focused, you get serious. But sometimes there's a bit of tunnel vision, and I think if you want a fair amount of money or financial recognition, you'd have to open that vision up just to see different possibilities. And I think that's why and where the 7 of Cups come into play. I think there's other options that you're just not seeing, as far as using your mind not in a productive way, but in a way that will give back fairly. And I think that's why the Temperance card was showing up earlier. In your heart of hearts, you're like, I am putting way too much energy into channeling, or into writing, or into learning, and it's just not paying off for me right now. And maybe that's where the 9 of Swords could be manifesting itself. It's like, I've learned this, I've learned that, and it's just stabbing me in the back, and I don't know why. Let's get an oracle card for this pile too. What's the wisdom from your owl self got to say about this? Displacement. I think this is just saying you're looking at the wrong cup. Yeah. I think you might be focusing on something that's not the most beneficial to what you want to accomplish. So that might be something you would want to meditate on. And meditating is something I wouldn't be surprised you're very good at, or actually you might not be, because your mind gets so busy. But if you were to be able to clear it, I think your mind would only get stronger. So now let's get the last element. What spirit animal represents your fire? What is your fire spirit animal? And we have the hawk. This is like a powerhouse group, the hawk with fire. And I'm not surprised that we have more air. I mean, okay, so it is the 3 of Wands, so it's technically fire and fire, which makes sense. But it's also a hawk, which is air element by default in my mind. you want to, I think physically you want to move, you want to experience more, and that just reflects that seriousness too. The owl is a serious card, the goat is serious, the fox is a little more playful, and the hawk is like, you're after something. There's this, it's with the Three of Wands, it's expectations manifest, and it's connected to the Queen of Wands, who kind of is like the witch of the queens, who makes that reality happen. So there's this urge and this fire, and it's very intense for, I think, most of you. Is like, okay, you're like, you see the Seven of Cups and you're like, I don't have time to be waiting around balancing other people's battling other people's emotions. I don't have the time to be kind of, even with the Temperance card, I feel like you might feel like you're just wasting time on other people. And not to be selfish, although I don't think it is. I think it's just more like you have a really big passion, a really big, like, I'm getting all worked up, a really big idea. You have something you want to share, and you're like, at this point, I'm just tired of the obstacles, and I'm not going to have it. And I think because of the goat, the bear spirit that you even have back there, you've seen so much. This is a very authoritative group. It's just really strong energy, and I think once you get it out, where is it? This Five of Pentacles will just multiply, and will like, normally you'd have to go through like 5, 6, 7. It'll go straight to 10. It won't even be close, and I think that might be a very abrupt change. So, in a way, that's how you'll know that. Okay, you let that energy out and it feels good. But you have a lot to share. Again, with the hawk, it attacks by going straight down, and as it moves, as it accelerates, that's where it gets its power. And so there's a power in the movement of your thoughts and a certain momentum that you build. And so if there is frustration now, just know that it's being used to really articulate something big. Something big is happening with you. Let's get some more cards for the Four of Wands. So yeah, quite a bit of Wands energy with the fire element. More Wands. 5 of Wands, 4 of Wands, and 3 of Wands. Talk about a progression. I think this is a very big place, a very big movement, but I think, okay, so first of all, these two cards are sticking out. It's like a specific person is blocking you from achieving your goals. And this could be family, and it might not be an enemy or anything. It's just like their presence, specifically emotions, their maybe they find emotional security in you, and that's blocking you. And I think while part of you wants to keep the peace, because we have the 2 4 of Wands, and this is part of the home, there is this desire to move forward independently. So if that's a good feeling you have, I think the animal spirit within you knows that and is like, let's just get it. But in other words, for others of you, if that's just not an option, just know you can maybe kind of separate yourself just to accomplish this goal, or just to express yourself. Like, you could detach from family, friends, or coworkers just to get your story and your creative project across, and then you could come back to them to like in a day-to-day. So it's kind of like creating a space and setting a time for you and your goals, and making sure that in that sacred space no one else's opinions gets in the way. We have release. This is very powerful. We see the circle here, and I'll show you. But I had mentioned release, right? I had mentioned that there's like this it's like a really strong energy that needs to be let go, and you can't contain it. So I think it's a very positive card. We have the 3 and 9, which are, in my mind, very powerful numbers together. And the number 3 shows up again, so in 13, I'll have the number 3. So that's creation. There's something you want to make, and even if there are people or obstacles in your way, it's not possible to stop this. That's where that. If you're feeling frustrated, that is just because the friction isn't. It's not natural, but what'll happen is kind of like a volcano, where the friction actually makes the release more intense. It makes that creative idea flow even faster. So I wouldn't be surprised if you maybe channeled, for example, just wrote a book in like a month or something, like a ridiculously short amount of time to complete something enormous. I think that's in your near future, so prepare, I guess. So yeah, hopefully this reading was helpful. Please let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and yeah, I hope to see you in the next reading. Take care. Hi, Pile 3, and welcome to your reading. I want to say, first of all, if you skip the intro, you might want to go back to that, so you're not completely lost in this reading. So the card the central card for this reading is the 5 of Coins, and that could represent your overall energy or current energy, depending on how how it resonates for you. The 5s have been showing up a lot in these readings, so times of great change, but also conflict that I think collective is going through at this time. It's a timeless reading, but at the time of recording, I should say. And you might feel as though you have not really found a home, like a place to call home, a place to really be yourself, or that sense of security, or you just find that you haven't had enough money to do the things that you want to do. But we're going to find a solution to this through your spirit animals. And I say animals because we're going to get a spirit animal for each of the elements within you. So the first spirit animal is your air spirit animal. What is your air spirit animal? What spirit animal represents how you communicate and how you think and perceive the world? The world. Okay, that's... Well, there's no animal here, so that hasn't happened yet. So we have a flower. Maybe that's just blossoming. Maybe you haven't... this is interesting. It's like you're expecting to become an animal, but you aren't yet. It's kind of like in a transition phase. Let's get one more card, because I do want to have an animal for this. I guess not. We have the 10 of Swords. So, okay. That's an interesting twist. You don't have an animal for your air element. I don't know why that's so funny to me. Jeez. And I look at the bottom and there's a dead bird. Alright, so mentally, your mind is going through a very big transition, and the way you communicate is going through a big transition, and it's probably very uncomfortable, but it's also going to open the world up for you, because we have the 5 of coins, and that's got to change. And I think part of the reason why you've been in this energy is your mind is creating it, and it's going through a phase of death and rebirth, especially with 3 of Swords, 10 of Swords, the Sun, Saturn, and we have the world. So Saturn, but it's opening up. That's changing. The world's, it's like your mind is drawing in more positive energy now. So I think most of the worst is over for that. But sorry, because we were expecting an animal. Don't worry, there's 3 other elements. It's one of them is gonna have an animal. We have the Queen of Wands, and then the 6 of Pentacles. I think you're going to be a lot more confident in the way that you think, confident in how you perceive yourself to be, and confident that the world can be fair. It's going from this 5 of coins to 6 of coins, where balance is being brought back into your reality, and that's through your change. So it could be like the revelation that your mind was not in a good place, and that's just part of the growth, really. That's just part of it. I think that's what the 3 of Swords is. It's kind of like, especially for Libra being there, where in order to really understand the importance of fairness, you have to experience unfairness. And I think for this pile, a lot of that has to do with not necessarily, well, kind of financial like displacement, or just unfairness in what you feel people should be making, and the value that they have as human beings is not really represented in a fair way with how they're living their lives, what they receive financially. Like some of these people you see, they just don't deserve what they have, because they're bad people, and you're like, what's that about? I don't understand. But I think part of that is just so you could experience that unfairness, so that you could bring to light all that reality, and you could make things right. I think that's part of it. That's part of what you're here to do, is to kind of just observe that imbalance before the heart heals with the 3 of Swords, and the heart becomes really strong, and the Libra can wield the sword, saying, I'm not going to tolerate this. Not only in myself, but especially in reality, as you gain more influence over the environment. Let's get a card, an oracle, before we move on to waterproof. This is interesting. It's kind of interesting because we have wrath at the bottom. There might be like an underlying anger with I think society and kind of like the culture, but I think with waterproof being there, it's like you're not going to be so easily influenced by other people's kind of story, the sad story, or upbringing, or emotional turbulence when it comes to truth, because truth is going to be very important for you, and that's how you're going to see a balanced living situation financially. But let's move on and get a spirit animal for water. Now that we're on waterproof. So what is your water spirit animal? You have a little fish. Okay, so a fish animal for water, which is very fitting. I think you're comfortable in that element. And I think it's interesting that we got waterproof right before this. So I think part of this is distinguishing between the mind and the emotions. I think maybe you've been in the past consumed by other people's stories, Yeah. I'm feeling like a lot of guilt tripping. Yeah, and people might have taken advantage of you in that sense. And I guess that does happen to empaths, but what I'm seeing with the mind is because the mind, your air spirit animal wasn't. There was no air spirit animal. And I think part of this journey is creating one, so you could feel secure in your mind, so that you're not so easily carried. Like, it's important to have logic, so that even if you have a strong emotional attachment to someone, there's this part of you that says, this person is repeating the same types of patterns. It just doesn't, even if the emotions are there, it just doesn't make sense to continue with this. The same thing goes for work, or any situation where there's a guilt. Like, your heart is kind of like, I don't want to let other people down. I don't want to let this job down. But your mind is like, you're not growing here, and you're kind of miserable, and it's not going to change, obviously. And I think that's where the Page of Cups is like, allow yourself to explore new waters, new oceans. So let's see. There's too many cards. So, why is the fish your... Oh, okay. So I only got one additional card. So it does seem like your water spirit animal is at its infancy and is going to grow and mature. It's not to say you don't have emotional intelligence, but you'll be able to navigate that realm a lot more easily and with a newfound wisdom. And I think that'll happen once you tap into maybe like your starseed origins, and you'll have superpowers with your water energy. Like, okay, I'll just show you. The whale is there, so you might feel connected to whales, or you listen to whale songs, or listen to the calls of whales. It might do something for you, but I think there's a natural progression from feeling small in the ocean to being like the biggest living creature on the planet. That's a very big change, isn't it? From feeling completely lost and small. And I think that's why this Five of Coins is here too, is that you might have felt small and insignificant, and I think that's why the world is showing up too, is that it's opening up for you. So you'll learn not to go with the flow, but to create the flow, to influence where the flow is, so that there is effortless movement, but it's not aimless. You're not at the mercy of the universe or anything like that. You embody the sea, and you could, through your mind and your heart's desires, when they connect, it's like you could create a momentum that goes to exactly where you want. Yeah. Let's just I want to get an oracle card for that. For your... So I said the guilt, and then we have the grief card. So that might be something that, people around you try to make you feel bad, and they use your your empathy as a weapon against you. And then we have ghosts. I guess that can translate to, I'm going to get another, no, I'm not. That maybe you even empathize or feel the emotions of non-living spirits, and they could influence you, influence your sense of direction, and that might be part of the reason why you feel displaced, or you might feel that unfairness can come from, like, this card, it's maybe there's a spirit or even past family member or loved one who lost their life in a war and feels like it wasn't worth it for them. That might be a message just for some of you. So let's get a card for the earth element. What is your earth spirit animal? We have, well, it's the moon. I don't know what, I think this is a night heron. Kind of looks like one. I mean, in my neighborhood, there's a bunch of them. So this kind of looks like it, but not really. They're gorgeous, by the way. They have really big red eyes. And of course, they hunt at night. The night is comforting to them. Notice that we had the Page of Cups, Queen of Cups, the waterproof card, and the moon. So I think you're very comfortable in the water element, and I think part of this is it's almost like the water grounds you in a way. So we have the night heron as your earth element, but I think that this is still developing, and your full power of water is still opening up, and I think it's going to open doors for you. And it'll also reveal who might have been taking advantage of your empathy again. And it'll also help you, like, I think working at night works for you for that reason, because you could feel less of an influence from other people. You feel free. Yeah, I think you're pursuing freedom in a lot of ways. Let's get some cards for this. Why is the night heron, the water spirit, Ace of Cups, and death? So part of the reason why we had the Ten of Swords, Three of Swords, lots of dead animals. We even had the Ghosts card. So if there was a mediumship pile, this is without a doubt the mediumship pile. And you could even work with past spirit animals. You're very comfortable with that. You like to work in the shadows. You actually, I think, in a lot of ways, prefer the shadows, prefer the subconscious, prefer being underwater. And I think part of this is saying, like, there is still a world above water. There is still a world, in the physical 3D. And I think we'll find the most success financially and a sense of, like, belonging on this planet is where you bring those two together. So we have the Ace of Cups and then the Death card. Yeah, with the Ace of Cups, Page of Cups, Queen of Cups, I think there's a lot of new passions, new curiosities that are moving you in a direction you didn't think you would want to go. And you might want to communicate with some of these, as you say, ghosts. Like, they might have insight. Of course, if you feel comfortable and if, you feel like, I guess everyone's mediumship practice is different. If you feel the need to use protection or things like that, just to make sure, of course, do so. But I think discerning, that's part of your I think spirits would speak to you not telepathically as much as through emotions, and the more you could focus on emotions, is like if you think of something, it makes you feel like this, and then you could almost pull a story from that feeling. But you're very comfortable. That's, again, your home. That's, you feel, it's like that connects you to your body. It's like you probably get a lot of insight in the shower, or you might work with the water element to ground yourself, like grounding meditations with water. And protection. I'd mentioned protection, so you might need protection, but you might also naturally have that protection around you. And I think this protection is regarding your, again, emotions, the empathy that you have, and guarding it and trying to be as neutral as possible. And starting off neutral, so maybe a morning meditation or a shower or something, so you could have a point of reference, like an anchor to your home within you. So then when you go out in the world and you're getting pulled in different directions emotionally, like you're upset but you don't know why, you'll be reminded, it's like, hey, when I left the house, it wasn't like this, and there's really no reason or need for that to be the case. So you might be drawn to use certain crystals or stones, or again, like meditation practices to center your emotions back, and kind of, or you might even do a really quick water meditation, like in the car or something, just to come back to center. That might be something you have to do fairly often. So, and I think that's why the death card is there, is that you're realizing just how much of an influence that has on your day-to-day. And you're gaining a lot of power. This is not, a bad thing at all. You'll be able to navigate in a way that most people have no idea how to do. Okay, last one. Your fire element. What is your fire animal spirit? We have bees. The bee spirit for your fire element could be drawn to work, but I think also this has to do with so because of your empathic nature, I think you also feed off of the energy of others too. Like, I know these terms, I guess, as part of the community, right? You have to be careful with how you say this, but I would say, like, you could be, okay, like an energy vampire in a positive way. And I think I had mentioned this in a previous reading where I talked about a workout. Like, you could feed off of the energy of the gym and use that to focus it and strengthen your workout. And I know musicians do this, especially with like rock music or something like that, where there's the whole crowd, and people feed off of the crowd to perform in a certain way. And the same could be said with sports. So I think that's a power that you have, and you're being called to like be aware of that it's not always used against you. And I think that's part of your journey. Is I probably shouldn't sing that much before these readings. Oh my god, sorry. But yeah, not everyone is out to get you, or not to say it feels that way, but it's not like because I mentioned grief and guilt and people using that against you, and that could be true, but at the same time there's the opposite side of that coin, the flip side, where you could really be a part of a community that works together, that's in flow, that is, has this synergy. And we see that here with the Six of Pentacles, and this was for the air which you didn't have a spirit animal for, but maybe you don't feel comfortable with others yet, with sharing your ideas, but just know that it exists. And I think it'll be easier for you once you find maybe a workplace or maybe a sport. I think a sport would be great for this pile. Getting into a sport or where, just teamwork, and you feel at home, and you'll feel like the ability to create something bigger than you'd be able to make on your own. Alright, let's just get some more cards for this. Three of Pentacles, the High Priestess. I think you're being guided to that. And we have the Tower. I'm going to get another card. Let's clarify the Tower. The Chariot. And then Justice at the bottom. I think that's you. I think that's where you're headed towards. I think you might have had this Tower moment already. It's interesting if you saw a different pile. I made a reference to a volcano, so if you came from there, hi. And there's also another animal from a different pile. Actually, two different animals from a different pile, so hi again. But anyway, it's kind of like the rebuilding phase after, like in this case, like a volcano flattens or completely annihilates an island or a town, or I think this pile is going through that phase where something was destroyed or is being destroyed, and you're trying to find the motivation, the desire, the energy to rebuild from that. And I think the bee spirit, since this is you, you're being called to find others. Not just find others, but recognize that you don't have to rebuild on your own, that you don't have to expect fairness from an unfair place, right? Like you're being guided towards movement because you want to move. I think that's why the High Priestess is here. But we did see the moon, so you might be guided to do this work at night in the shadows where you feel comfortable. You might even meet people, and this might even be spirits again. I'm gonna get an oracle card for this. What's the bee spirit trying to... Okay. Alright, let's see. Observation and community. Yeah, there we go. Look. I think the main card here is community, if I'm going to be honest, just because of the association with the bees. But that you could build something more than you could imagine with the help of others. And again, that it includes your spirit team, that you don't have to do this alone. And that you're meant to be part of a family. So you might have gotten used to all the change and the backstabbing and the betrayal. But there's still good people out there, and there's still people who won't try and take advantage of you, and it's most likely to be people who have gotten taken advantage of. So it's kind of like the pain binds you, or at least opens the hearts of... It's like you share a heart space with those who are wounded, and then together you'll build something that cannot be destroyed with a very solid foundation. So yeah, I'm gonna end the reading there. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe. I do read the comments, and I love them. So thank you for those of you who do that. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next reading. Take care.